Hello, YouTube. Welcome to part 5 of Silent Hill 2 with a Therapist. I am so grateful that you are still here for the playthrough. I hope that my words and analysis have been meaningful to you in some way as we've gone through the story. It's been really cool to have you along, and I hope that you'll watch all the parts because this is obviously going to go to some really cool places. So do leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, follow the links in the description, all that fun stuff. Tell your friends about the playthrough, engage with it as much as you can, spread the love. The channel's growing, and I'm really grateful for that. So whether you've been watching these as they come out or if you've been watching them years down the line, I really appreciate you giving me a chance. All right, James, let's see if your wife is here. Let's see if your dead wife is here. Could it be? Who dis?
Mary? No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria. I don't look like a ghost, do I?
No, you look like a sexualized
See?
version of my wife.
Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
Hey. Where are you going?
I need to find Mary.
Didn't you say she died?
Oh. Yeah. 3 years ago. It's just... I got a letter from her.
A letter?
I know how it sounds. I don't...
Hey. It's okay. So, what did the letter say?
She said she was waiting for me. In our special place.
And that's here? Anyway, I haven't seen her. Is this your only special place?
I don't know anymore.
Our boy is jarred.
There was something. I can't quite...
Hey. I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
What kind of place?
Kind two lovers might call special. I can show you if you want. Unless you have somewhere else to be. Something else to do. Hey, easy there. I'm just messing with you. Come on. It's this way.
You're coming with me? Can't you just tell me where it is?
Wait. You're just gonna leave me here? Alone? With all these monsters around?
No, I just...
Is it because I remind you of her?
Ooh, that was an interesting emphasis
You
on her.
loved her, didn't you? Didn't you?
All right, just
So it's okay.
Yeah.
My
Oh, that's good.
goodness gracious. Oh, wow, we are starting hot. No pun intended. Okay. 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 Let me shut my door. I'm going to be talking loudly. Holy shit. All right. So, wow. The sexual overtones of this game are really quite something. Our boy obviously has some strong values around sex. I mean, the level of, I have to imagine that James was sexually frustrated with his wife in some way or another. I don't think it's any accident that when we get to the special place, okay, God, this game makes my brain spin so many ways and I love it. Okay. So when we get to the special place, we have to remember Silent Hill is a navigation of James's psychology. And I am guessing, okay, I'm guessing that while James was going through his wife's demise, as we talked about in previous episodes, my strong hypothesis is that sex was not available to him, or at the very least was not available to him in a way that he would have liked. So, what he likely would have done from an intrapsychic standpoint is split sex, sexuality, sexual effusiveness, where splitting is where you basically take something and you throw it into a binary and you load good or bad on certain people. So if sex being available and sexuality being outward is something that James values, he would see it as good. And he would see the opposite of that, we'll call it like prudishness or more like sexual conservativeness, where maybe you're not as effusive sexually, you dress more conservatively, etc., as bad. Now, I'm not saying in an objective sense that they're good or bad, just in James's mind, you have good or bad. So if his wife, whom he loves and is taking care of, is not available for this thing that he strongly values, that would be put into a bad category from like an object relation standpoint, from a splitting standpoint. But what that would mean is that in his own psyche, he would very likely construct what the antithesis to that current situation is, which would be a sexualized version of his wife that he likely would fantasize about, because it's the only, he doesn't have it available to him, so he has to fantasize about it. So that would be good. If sexual frustration was a paramount part of his dissonance in taking care of his wife, and was something that he indulged more and more of the fantasy of, and got lost in the fantasy of his wife rather than the reality of it, but saw that as good because that's what he was hoping for. If he gets to the spot in Silent Hill that is very special to him and his wife, and he's excited to see his wife, he very likely would see the idealization of his wife, the fantasized version of his wife, not his actual wife. Because to see his actual wife as he remembered her would be heartbreaking and difficult, and it would remind him of all the shit that he didn't like. So in his mind, if he's engaging with his wife in a place that he idealized, the idealized form of his wife from a sexual representation point would show up. And it wouldn't be Mary, because the Mary he knows wears sweater vests over dresses and collared shirts, has brown hair. The sexualized version of her wears a skirt with boots and blonde hair with color and makeup and is more vibrant. Also, butterfly tattoo, no accident. His wife is the moth. Butterfly tattoo, lively, alive, life, idealized version of his wife. So why would James be grumpy when he interacts with that? Well, because imagine the dissonance. Fantasies are fantasies. They sit in our head. A lot of times when people have certain fantasies, part of the reason it's a fantasy is because they don't perceive it as being available to them. So if you actually saw your fantasy incarnate at a place that you were expecting to see a different version of your wife, that would throw you off too. So James is dealing with, okay, this person looks exactly like my wife, but looks like a hot version of my wife. Not hotter, but a hot version of my wife. And is the manifestation of that piece of my wife. Now, something that a lot of people, in particularly men, deal with in terms of like sexual attraction is objectification. So something that can actually be very difficult. I try not to put this too much in the binary from gender because it can work in a lot of different directions, including non-binary folks. But you see this a lot with men. Is that men actually sometimes will struggle to engage sexually with people, with like their in monogamous relationships, the person they care about, because they find it hard to objectify a person that they have deeper feelings for, but sex is something that they've had co-represented with objectification. So we've essentially run into an objectified version of his wife, which in some ways is super hot, but if it's only loaded from like a sexual standpoint, it's not actually his like wife as he remembers and cares about her. So you have this really dissonant piece of like, I'm super attracted to you, but you're not the actual wife I'm in love with. And so it also would bring up to him what he missed out on while he was going through the final clouded memory of what his wife was before she died. And yeah, you have to deal with all that at once. That's a ton to take in. So his aversion to it and his like funkiness around this is because he wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this. I didn't think we were going to walk up here and see that. I thought we'd see nothing or a monster, if anything else. I didn't think we were going to see a sexualized version of his wife. I mean, that is really, I mean, this is real struggles this dude is dealing with here, and we're seeing a concretization of it. So a fantasy can be less fun because it's suddenly real and accessible. Is it because it wrecks the fantasy? It can be, yes. that like all of a sudden, if a fantasy is actually on the table, it takes the reason sometimes that fantasies are fantasies is because of what we load it with. We don't see the fantasy itself with all the nuance that it would actually bring. We see it we fill the gaps with idealizations of what our hopes and dreams of it can be. And so the reality of that doesn't always match what the actual fantasy itself is. So if this is how he fantasized his wife, and then she shows up and he's like, whoa, wait a second, this isn't actually what I wanted. Like, I just thought it'd be kind of hot if she was like blonde and put some color in her hair and maybe put a short skirt on every once in a while. But I didn't, oh, wow, actually seeing it feels weird to me. Like, that's a very dissonant experience. Very wild. So, her being along for the ride on this is going to be really interesting. And I very much wonder what purpose she serves being along for the ride here. And I don't mean that from a game design standpoint. I mean that really from James's standpoint. And I'm actually, well, no, I shouldn't say I don't know what that's about, because if I think more about it, I think James is having to work backwards here, as many people do. I think James probably was in some real significant denial about his wife, or he just got so entrenched in the reality of his wife that he needed to escape it via fantasy. And unfortunately, if he spent a lot of time in fantasy, that would be more tangible and available to him. So I think what we're going to have to do is work through the more tangible and readily represented version of his wife before we get to the reality of it. I think we're seeing him wrestle with his own inner demons about himself. But if I recall correctly, in the cutscene that came along with the jukebox when he heard the music, we didn't see Mary's face. We just saw her dress and like her hands. So that, I think, in some ways also, like, he doesn't even fully like remember his wife as she was prior to the illness, because he started spinning off into all these idealizations of what it was that she could be or what she wasn't. And this is something people go through, man. It's really tough. And it doesn't just involve sex. Like, it's represented sexually here, but people go through this when loved ones have like Alzheimer's and dementia, where they're not themselves anymore. And then you have to like bring yourself to, in some ways, idealize, like, see your parent for who you wish they were, because that's what keeps you connected to them when they're a shell of themselves. Like, there's all sorts of real life scenarios where this type of thing happens. So yeah, we're gonna have to work through the objects that James holds in his head before we get into any kind of nuanced representation of his wife. And this is brilliant, the way that this is done. But boy, you could have given me 100 guesses of what we were going to see when we walked out to this gazebo, and this is not what I would have guessed.
James? What are you doing?
How? Okay, so yeah, this is totally in James's head. I don't think James told her his name. He said... I don't think he said, "I'm James."
Are you okay? We can stay for a while if you want.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a very seductive tone to her voice. You know, her sexualized features are quite prominent here. I mean, oh, this is so fascinating. Again, this is one of those moments I so desperately wish we could hear what's going on in James's mind.
Through here.
She's wearing a ring, but not a wedding ring. She got a moon bracelet on, too. She does. So, like, I mean, we're seeing, like, polarities, right? Wife, moth, death, butterfly, life, vibrant, but moon, potentially, like, dark side. Wife is my sun, my light. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism going on here, obviously. Huh. Man. I would also say she looks somewhat younger. Yeah, she's got makeup on. I mean, again, just for reference, right? Not a lot of makeup. Hair's up. She's got her hair down. Short, sassy. Just, I mean, real strong polarity. But I would also say, I think this is an important thing to also understand about this, is she's not different feature-wise. So James still, it is his wife. This isn't like he's got his wife and then he's like sexualizing and idealizing himself being with Beyonce. Like, it's not like Beyonce didn't show up here. It's his wife with modified features that can be changed. You can change what you wear. You could get a tattoo. You can change your haircut. Right? So it is his wife. There is a connection with his wife. But there is a desire to have certain aspects of her countenance and her visual experience modified in a way that is self-indulgent, which I don't mean that as a bad thing, but it's kind of like, here's what I would love to see. But there is a connection to his wife there. Like, she didn't show, he's like, whoa, you're like the chick I've been fantasizing since second grade. And, you know, the adult version of you is super hot and you look nothing like my wife. So this is really playing tricks on him. Super interesting that everybody's head's cut off, too. Me, heart, she.
Want to take a breather?
What? No, sorry, I'm just a bit preoccupied.
It's fine. You know, if there's anything you want to talk about, anything at all.
No. Let's just keep moving.
Man. I also wonder if James' reluctance to engage with her is out of a fear of losing control. Like, it could be that it's freaked out. It could also be that this is everything he fantasized about and it's on the table. And it's like if you have a coworker that's been flirting with you a lot and you've kind of fantasized about it, but you're loyal to your spouse, and then that coworker's like, hey, like, let's go for a beer after work because we got out an hour early. And you're like, boy, if I go out for that beer, I'm on a slippery slope because I don't know that I trust myself to hold back here. So I'm going to set a really harsh boundary up front and be like, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't even want to indulge that pathway. That also could be going on for him here. Or he's like, I don't want to, nope, I don't want to stop and take a breather. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to engage with you because I don't trust myself I feel a sense of loyalty to my wife, albeit that she's gone. And going in your direction would maybe feel like a betrayal to my wife's memory because you're the selfish incarnation of my wife. You're not my wife as she actually was. You're my wife as I fantasized her to be. And if I indulge that, does that make me more of an asshole? Is there more judgment that he starts to cast on himself for this if he starts to indulge conversations with her? I don't know that that's what he's doing, but it's totally plausible to me that it could be. She gets like right up on him too. You know her now, it's like, oh boy. Yeah, just take those pills out of the toilet, bud. No, we're not gonna bang in the bathroom, Maria.
This place we're going to, what is it exactly?
It used to be kind of a special place for young couples in these parts. I think it's easier if I just show you.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Actually, Maria, on second thought, I think I'm gonna go on this journey by myself. So far from home. Oh, I love that they have these chessboards out here. It's great.
Who is that?
Just a woman. Killed for no real fault of her own by moral, upstanding folk. Common theme, I guess.
What do you mean?
In history, you know?
What did you do to your wife, James? That can't be an accident. Victim of persecution by the Christians. Jenny Carroll lived with pride and honor. What happened here shall never be forgotten. Holy crap. You know, now that I think about it, God. One of the things that has been consistent, other than just the statues, but with the monsters themselves, is they don't have heads. Like, even though the monsters barf and stuff, they don't really have defined heads. They're sort of like neck down. All of these statues, except for this one, don't have heads. We're in a garden of, like, remembrance. We just met a person who's a version of my wife. The only, I mean, what that makes me think... I don't know. This feels like a lot because it feels weird for me to make the full insinuation or commit fully to the idea that James was complicit in his wife's death, maybe even to the point of ending it for her. But, like, if you smothered somebody with a pillow, your very last memory of them being alive would not include their head. So if you're thinking about, like, how a traumatic moment like that gets filed away in the mind, there's a difference between alive Mary and dead Mary. And in her last moments, if he suffocated her with a pillow or something like that, then his internal representation of guilt would include her not having a head. And so we're seeing a lot of symbolism of women, I guess in this case, not having heads. And it makes me go there. It's just, it's hard to get away from that. Like when you have enough pattern and things that come together like this, I mean, there's so many things that have happened so far that contribute to this hypothesis. Like, I guess that's why I keep coming back to it and why I have to listen to it, because I'm not saying that's what happened, but if we're in his psyche, it's plausible that that is a thing. It's amazing the way the human brain works around these things. Seriously, like there's a line of demarcation between if you watch somebody, like you see somebody alive and when you see them dead. And if her death at the time, maybe he like smothered her and looked at the clock and then called the ambulance, you would there's a line of demarcation there. You would remember the time. You probably remember what you or her were wearing. You would remember certain smells and stuff in the area, and then you probably file it away where you see her from shoulder down because the pillow's over her face. Maybe he couldn't he probably had to take the pillow off of her face in order to make it look like he didn't smell. I mean, I don't know. That all just, okay. This is really, really interesting stuff. If this is us just kind of crawling around in James's brain. It could darkness, hard to say. How many ice cream stands are there here? Good God. Folks of Silent Hill love ice cream. Ice cream, cold, death. Visitor info. I'd love some visitor info.
There, we can go through the motel.
What, this one? This super creepy Jack's Inn? I'd rather not. Oh, I don't have the item for that. Okay.
Whoa! Hey! Why'd you do that?
Why not? Why? Does it turn you on? Don't indulge that, James. Don't indulge that. Just want you to see that I'm a strong, capable man. Oh, wow.
Not getting through here.
No reason to. It's the wrong way anyway.
Yeah. I like exploring. Okay, Jack's in.
You ever stayed in a place like this? The walls are so thin you can hear everything. Love, hate, jealousy.
I mean, the connotation here, motels are often used
You startled me.
to engage with sex workers, so again, more sexual overtones. I don't even want to call them undertones. Overtones. If anyone needs anything, I'm fixing the pipes at 107. Madame Boutique. Ooh. Is that a condom dispenser? Be pretty wild to have a condom dispenser in the lobby of the motel. Looks like that's what it might be, though. Betty's butterfly. Oh, baby. We got more butterfly symbolism here. Oh, baby. Okay. Do not disturb.
Cozy.
Is
This
it?
room. There's something wrong with it. I think we should leave.
Oh, loosen up, James. It sure beats running around with those monsters out there.
I'm not so sure.
You trying to blind me, James?
Is it that the room feels wrong or that it feels wrong to be here with her in it? I love, this is like another one of those things where like this detail, this doesn't need to be here. You don't have to have a portable space heater in here. It's not necessary. But the fact that it's here makes it so much more awesome from an environment building standpoint. I appreciate so much somebody crafted this asset and put it in this room, and it just makes it so much more like lived in and eerie. It's just, God, it's so good. There's so much effort went into this. That's 106. Where the hell's 107? That's why I like want to take the time to really just look at every square inch of this space, because it's just amazing. Oh, here, a save spot.
James? Is everything all right?
Just saving my game.
Hey, you okay? It's like you froze for a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
Saving my game, Maria. Now, I mean, furthering the evidence that this is maybe an idealized version of his wife, she's asking him a lot of questions about himself and his experience. She is invested in him in a way that he seems to be somewhat uncomfortable with. But she is quite forward with trying to understand his experience. He seems to want nothing to do with her experience. But she sure is interested in his.
I could really use a warning next time.
Maybe don't follow me so closely.
Can you let me in?
No, you're going to stay out there for a minute. I'm going to do this room by myself. You don't want to walk through the window, that's not my problem. Come on. It's like when I let my cats into my office. Come on.
Why, thank you, good sir.
Speaking of opening a door. When you open your door, your cat just looks at you and goes, meow. All right, lay down, bud. If you're going to be here, you got to lay down. Yeah, you want to be part of the action? I get it. But you have to lay down. Standing in front of my screen like this is not going to work. Come on. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Okay, dear. One less, 3, 1 more, 8, 3 less, 0, 1 more. Toolbox memo. Well, that sounds like a neat little puzzle.
Hey, you think I'd look good in this one?
Oh, lordy.
Sure.
Not quite the ringing endorsement, but hey, I'll take it.
Lay down. Yeah, she's, man. Why are you here? All right. One less. 3, 1 more. 8, 3 less. 0, 1 more. 0, 4, 5, 1.
Thank you.
So you see the same monsters. Interesting. Gate.
I think you just saved my life back there.
Glad I did.
Yeah. So am I.
Glad I did. You're warming up to the idea that she's here, huh?
So that's what it was for. Yay.
Where to now?
Just down this way.
Low rates, cable color TV, kings and queens. Oh, baby. Baldwin Mansion, garage jack. That noise that comes from those pits is so ominous. Okay. No way this is open. Yeah. Hey, what's up, monkey? Giraffe, teddy bears. Smashed bottles. Alright, appears we can't really do much here. It's not yet.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, it's just... This place just gives me the creeps. I'm not sure why.
You ever been inside?
I'm not sure. It does feel familiar somehow. Like a bad memory. It's nothing, really.
Interesting that you wouldn't remember whether you've been in here. Alright, guessing we'll come back to that. I would love it if you led the way. Alright, another dead end. Appreciate y'all being here, by the way. Thanks for spending time with me in these playthroughs.
So, James, 3 years. That's a long time. What will you tell her if, when you find her?
That I love her.
Oh, then. Lucky her.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Like I said, 3 years is a long time.
don't know that I have much for you on that. Yeah, and the only thing that I can go with here would be the split. Is that if she was an unattainable version of Mary, so there's going to be a polarity between the two. And I mean, I guess if James's splits and projections and objects have a shitload of nuance, you could go in some direction of saying that the fantasy would always be jealous of the reality because the idea is that the fantasy only exists insofar as it's not available in reality. And so if it's available in reality, then the fantasy is no longer necessary because reality is satiating your needs. So she would be frustrated if James was to reconnect with his wife because it means that she's not necessary anymore. But that would suggest that like his manifestation of a sexualized version of his wife is autonomous in some way. So that gets really complicated really fast. But like it would make sense to me why she would be jealous of like Mary, because if he's all in on Mary, then it means that she's not really useful to him anymore. I mean, plausible. But that's what happens when you get into the binary. That's what happens when you get into the idea that a fantasy can only exist as a fantasy. That's why if you have certain fantasies, actually communicating about those fantasies to the person or people that you're in an intimate relationship with can make a big difference. Because you can sometimes neutralize the fantasy, or you may find that parts of that fantasy that really are meaningful to you can exist in your current relationship, but people can't read your mind. But this polarity, I mean, there's no way he told Mary that he was fantasizing about her. There's no way. I just can't imagine a scenario where he would say that to her while she's dying. Probably out of a fear that it would make her feel worse about the fact that she's not available to him, particularly if she loves him too and wants to be able to meet those needs and just simply can't. You're not going to sit here and say, you know, I've been thinking about a pink tip, short, blonde, bob haircut version of you in a skirt and how badly I want to bang you in that. You're not going to do that. But if you're, I mean, and people will say things like, I'm afraid to talk about my fantasies to my intimate partner because I'm afraid they're going to judge me for it. That says more about your relationship than it does your fantasy. I mean, it's part of, it's not like you necessarily choose what that fantasy is. And its existence is not problematic. You could think about having an affair with a coworker, and it's not really a problem until it happens. The number one thing, by the way, that prevents affairs is talking about the desire to have an affair. Number one thing that can create more sexual intimacy with people is to discuss openly their fantasies. Just because somebody says they have a fantasy doesn't mean their partner has to meet it. Like if you say, I have a fantasy of you being tied up to the bed for 4 hours and we tickle each other, that doesn't mean that your partner has to allow that. It means that maybe you talk about what aspects of that do turn you on, and are there ways that you both could consent to that would allow that to have a place in your relationship. It's no different than any other conversation. We just get all weird about it because it's sexual in nature. It actually may have done James a real service to be able to talk about those types of things with his wife, and maybe his wife would have been open to it. We can't know that now because she's dead. So then you carry guilt and judgment for yourself for the things that you fantasize about. It's not harmful to fantasize about things. Unless you overindulge those fantasies, don't communicate about it, and pursue it in a way that violates the boundaries of your relationship, then it's a problem. If you have a certain fantasy and then you go solicit the work of a sex worker, which is a violation of the boundaries of your relationship, the fantasy itself is not a bad thing. Engaging with a sex worker, not a bad thing. Violating the boundaries, whether stated or unstated, of your relationship, that's a problem, right? But the actual thought itself is not an issue. So if James carries a sense of guilt over the fact that he thought about his wife this way, that's not actually a bad thing. It's harmful, though, if he wasn't really in a place to be able to talk about it, or if his relationship couldn't sustain it. That's when these things get really tough. Whether it's you, not necessarily Eldritch. It could, but it doesn't always have to be worse before it gets better. Sometimes that's part of it. Sometimes it's not. But like I said, I do think James is working backwards. I think he's working on what his final representations and fantasies were as it related to his wife's demise first before he can get into the nitty-gritty. You know, he got a little bit of a burst of it by getting a letter from his wife and having a picture of her, but that's all he has is a picture of her. We're seeing that his internal representation of his wife doesn't necessarily align with the picture that he has of her. Where are we going? Why? Moonlit Grove? We got our generator running over here? Our car is running? Interesting.
Strange. This should not be here.
Well, it is. So, what now?
Now we look for another way.
Come on.
James?
Oh no, am I leaving? I don't get my thing anymore? No, but I do get the jack. Oh, I get a pipe. That's even better.
James?
Stay close.
Sexualized version of your wife shows up and now you want to lay pipe. Coincidence? Heaven's Night. Oh, I bet that's where we're going. Sound design is so good. It's so good. You know, anytime I'm thinking something for a prolonged period of time, I might as well say it. Another thing that stands out to me about this is that when these ones that like wriggle around on the ground move around, they move their legs similarly to the way that you would expect somebody who's suffocating to move their legs. Like people tend to kick their legs if they can when they're being suffocated. And the other thing is that like when these fall down on their back after we kill them, they do like a back arch thing like a person would do as well if they were suffocating. Like there's real movement in here that falls in line with the type of movement that you would expect if somebody was being smothered. Like I can't, like, it's really hard for me to get that out of my head. Like watch when we kill this one. Watch what happens when it falls down to the ground. See? Like that. Almost like something is on its head and it arches its back. I have to be careful because I don't want to confirmation bias myself, but table.
Over there.
What? Leg monster?
Through the fence.
You can just hold on a second. I got shit that I want to explore. Hell. Environment is great. My eyes are like dry just because I'm imagining being in this wind. Like, hey, hey, hey. I mean, maybe darkness again. Don't know, but it would fit the profile. We'll see. Whew. butterfly sticker. A red door. Danger, dude. Oh boy. Picture of some cats. Okay. Sweater stands out to me. Ready to kill it. I don't have those numbers on it. I love you, Mom. Anxiety. So we'll post a note of anxiety. November. No head thing. Wild Wednesday. Come for a drink, stay
Maria?
for...
Hello?
We're at a strip club. Oh, man. I got a lot of bullets. The lighting is so good.
Maria?
Oh, she comes out on this stage, dude.
What? Oh, come on, don't give me that look. I was just kidding.
What is this? Is this the special place you met?
Don't be silly. Just have to go through and out the front.
Never go back to front.
Then again, now that we're here, can't we stay? Just for a little while. Catch our breath before we head back out there.
I don't have time to take a break. Mary could be out there, waiting for me.
I know. It's just... this place, this whole thing, it's like a nightmare. I just wanted to get away from it, even for a second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess this place is getting to me, too. Am I crazy? You know, for thinking she could be here.
Crazy is one word for it, I guess. I can think of another.
What's that?
Hopeful.
Well, that's a nicer way of putting it.
Here.
What are you doing?
Something to take the edge off.
No.
No? You sure? Fine. Be that way. Here's to hope, undying.
We should probably get going.
Fine. Ready when you are.
So obviously there is some self-doubt that he's seeking some reassurance around. I don't know that Maria's the one to find it from. I'm beginning to think, I don't know that James is aware of this yet, but I think when we're talking about finding Mary, we're not talking about, obviously, finding Mary actually. I think what we're talking about at this point is finding a memory or a representation internally of Mary that is as close to whole and real as James is capable of getting from like an internal representation standpoint. So this isn't really about finding her. This is about you digging deep and getting through all the clutter that you mentally created for yourself, not even just when she was sick, but just in general, to who is the person that you were actually with? Is it somebody that you were actually fully and deeply invested in, or was it somebody that you were with that maybe came with some concessions? Did you maybe settle in certain ways that were understandable given where you were in your development when you met her, but maybe if you went back again and made a decision again, you wouldn't have made the same decision? Or is it just that along the way, her illness took her away from you? It's really hard for you to separate her from the illness, and it's contaminated your memories of her. And this is about fighting through your own experience to find who she was and who you originally fell in love with, so that that's the person that you can carry along with you going forward. And if you do that, does that release you from the need to hold on to a sense of like loyalty, or are you open to maybe seeking further relationship because you've closed that door, so to speak, and can hold on to her memory in a meaningful way yet continue to live your life? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. His refusal of the drink, I think, is really smart, because you need to have your full mental acumen here. Getting rid of any of your mental faculties is a terrible idea, particularly when you have this representation of your wife here. I'm a little bit surprised that James hasn't given more voice or curiosity to who Maria is and why she looks exactly like his wife. I'm also a little bit surprised that he hasn't reacted to her in a way that's like, you know, I've seen you before. Like, he's like kind of acting like she's not familiar to him, and maybe that's just from like a game design standpoint, it needs to be that way. But it may also just be that he doesn't really realize he's in his own mind yet. That maybe he really is just taking this as straight up reality. But, you know, why do you come to a strip club? Great question. You know, it wonders in some ways it's just like a symbolism for you're going to have to you have to undress and get to the core, get naked in your mind. That's kind of cheesy and dumb. My hypothesis, I guess, would be, was there a time where James decided to go to a strip club thinking that that was as close as he could get to an approximation of what he was looking for, and when he was at that strip club, was he carrying guilt? Like, did it satiate something but also bring up for him what he doesn't have available? Like, did he do this in secret? And is this a place that he doesn't necessarily have pleasant association with because it was something he did out of necessity because he couldn't get what he was looking for from his wife? And I want to be very clear again, I'm not suggesting that the way that all this gets fixed is his wife just sucks it up and is available sexually. That is not what I'm suggesting. She was dealing with what she had to deal with, and sex not being available is totally understandable. It's what makes everything so complicated here. And it really, I think, speaks to the nature of his relationship to her. How much communication was there actually? How much openness, honesty was there? Or was there a lot of withholding out of fear of what it would mean if things were spoken into existence? You know, that fear of communication can often cause more problems in the long term than anything else. Lost and found. A wallet, a ring, and some sunglasses. And a picture of somebody with blonde hair. Not gonna shuffle that around a little bit and see if there's any money in there. Emergency evacuation instructions. The Fifth River. Hey.
Is that you?
Would you like it to be?
Girl. My cat wants his tummy scratched, so I'm going to tummy scratch for a minute. And catch our breath. I can just say again, I appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. You're enjoying yourself now that you're getting some belly scratches.
Let me know when you want to move on.
Let's go.
All right, then. Come on.
Let me know when you want to move on. Whoa, more mirrors.
We could come back later if you want. You know, in case we need a break.
I'm not sure if that's a good idea.
Whatever you say. I mean, any port in the storm, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't get a sense that James trusts himself. I actually, I had a conversation today with somebody that I think is apt for this. Talked about it in the context of performance, but I think it's something that applies in the context of, I don't want to go so far as to say addiction, although it certainly can apply in addiction. But if we were to talk about, let's just say impulse control. There is a word that I think is incredibly important when we try to think about healthy decision making. And that word is trust. The difference in the way that people behave when they don't trust in themselves and their ability to harness the moments in which they have control, that difference is huge. And what I mean by that is James seems not to trust in his impulse control or what he may do. And as a result of that, he is firm with some boundaries, which is good, but he's also skittish. Where he's like, I don't think it's a good idea to come back to the strip club, to be surrounded by alcohol and to have you available to me. Because I don't know that I trust my ability to say no or walk away, set a boundary. I'm averse to X, Y, and Z because I don't know if I trust in my ability to perform. And while you watch people go through recovery, and I'll talk about, say, alcoholism here as an illustration of this. When people try to go sober from a substance like alcohol, there's any number of ways that you can do that. But one of the ways that people often will go through that process is they will sterilize their environment. So one of the most common, or I would maybe even go so far as to say like cliche ways that an alcoholic deals with their alcoholism is to purge their immediate environment of all alcohol. Ensure that there's none in your house. I mean, you hear this all the time. Or like if you go to a friend's house, like asking you, can you lock the alcohol away? And the reason that a person in recovery does that is, yeah, you're not going to drink if there's no alcohol available to you, but an underlying facet of that is a lack of trust in one's ability to control themselves if the thing that they want to indulge is available to them. I don't trust that if there's a bottle of whiskey sitting on a shelf in my house, that I'm not going to drink the entire thing. I don't trust my ability to drink in moderation. So, clear the environment. However, what that reinforces over time is that lack of trust, because you're never putting yourself in a position where you can exert control over that scenario. There is an argument to be made that I'm not saying true sobriety, because if you're sober, you're sober. If sterilizing your environment has allowed you to maintain your sobriety, that's great. I'm not bashing that. But there's an argument to be made that there's a next level of sobriety, which is where a person trusts themselves to control that impulse, even if alcohol is available. That I could go to a party and drink water and avoid alcohol, or I trust in my ability to drink in moderation. Or just, again, like I can have the thing available to me and actively say no. There's real power in that. There's a reinforcement of one's locus of control. So the reason I bring this up here is because James seems to be a person who does not fully trust in his ability to control himself. So I would much rather not be around it. And I wonder how that played out in his relationship while his wife was dying. And I wonder what that's meant for his decision making in the aftermath of it. You know, is there a desire to go to a strip club or to date or drink alcohol in moderation because I enjoy it, but I'm too afraid of my ability to control that. I don't trust it. And the reality is, he, like anybody else, can control it. Anybody who has been around an alcoholic or has been an alcoholic themselves or is an alcoholic themselves will tell you that nobody forces the alcohol into your system. Nobody holds you down and pours the beer into your mouth. It can feel like an out-of-body experience to drink. But at the end of the day, you're the one that is responsible for any time alcohol enters your body. And that is something that is so important to understand, because it means that you can choose differently at any given point in time. Now, that may be more difficult for some because of the struggle with impulse or the way things have been reinforced. And yes, there is some chemical withdrawal that can happen that makes it that much more difficult. But at the end of the day, you have control there. In the same way that James has control here. James doesn't have to keep Maria with him if he doesn't want her around. If she's a distraction, if she is a representation of something that he's trying to get away from, he doesn't have to indulge her. And if we view Maria as an intrusive thought, which she basically is, yeah, she's there. We don't necessarily want her there. But we can control our response to that intrusive thought. James could say, stay here. Or I'm going to go out here and I don't want you to follow me. He could try to set boundaries with her. And that would be, I think, a way that he could exert some control in this situation. I think her showing up has obviously scrambled him. Maybe because now he's having to confront his struggle with impulse control. Or maybe what he believes or like perceived to be an overblown sense of lack of impulse control. Or like he thought maybe because he had sexual fantasies or because he had these needs that he wanted to indulge in his wife that it made him like, you know, a bad person and impulsive and all this stuff. And no, not really. Like there's perfectly sound explanations for why those types of things would have happened for him. Which is why I wish he would have seen a therapist while his wife was dying. It would have helped a lot. That clock, same time. 9, 10, and 15 seconds. Jesus, Maria. Did I save at that table? Yeah, I think I did. Heaven's Night. Man, that is, wow, that's not what I expected that place to look like. From the outside. No parking garage. No parking garage. Constant use. All right. Where are we going? Is it dusk? Are we getting close to nighttime here?
Okay, it's not far now.
Nothing safe with you around, huh?
Dude, she says stuff that totally means more than, I mean... She knows.
More of those things.
You know what I did. You know what I did. Environment is just so good. It's just so good. Like, again, the details are... You don't have to put all these rusty cans here. How many people are going to walk around this corner, stop and look at these... You don't have to do that. But somebody did. It makes all the difference. All the difference. To have so many details that you just walk past. It brings so much life to such a dead place.
Look, we're on the other side of that chasm. Some detour. But hey, at least we're here.
Here meaning where exactly?
Come on, you'll find out.
Yeah, I don't... Man, I hate when people are cryptic. I realize that video games do it because... You'll find out. Just tell me what we're getting into so that I can be informed in my consent.
They're coming. this is it.
Moonlight Grove, huh? Well, we'll open it.
That's it? A garden?
There's a bit more to it than that.
If you say so. I don't think I've been here before.
Come on. She's just around the corner.
She? Who is she?
There's a story told around these parts. Kind of a local legend. Tells of a woman who was cast out. Sentenced to die on an island out on the lake. But there was a man in town who fell madly in love with her. And every night, he would sneak out. Row across the lake, bringing her food and company. And every night, she would stand there, on the shore, holding a lit candle to help him find his way. But this one night, a terrible storm broke out, caught him out in the open, and it blew out the candle. Even in darkness, the man would not give up. He would not turn back. So he fought against the raging waters until finally the lake took him. They say even then, the woman never lost hope. She kept coming out at night, kept lighting the candle to bring her beloved home, to lead him to shore. Not sure how much truth there is to it. It's probably just a fairy tale. But she's become something of a local saint. Patron of undying love. Hence this place.
She's not here.
What?
She's not here. And why would she be? I don't even remember this place. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come here.
Hey. It's okay. There's plenty of other places to look. We can still...
Come on.
I don't have to break down that symbolism, do I? Like, light went out, dude keeps chasing, dude keeps going into the darkness, swimming around in a sea of his own thoughts. Can't find her. She's still hoping he will. That was a little heavy-handed. Now, who was screaming?
I think it came from inside the theater.
Return to Owl Creek Bridge. Artificial sky.
Huh.
You okay?
Yeah. Maybe you better wait here.
Okay. Not much of a movie fan anyway. And James,
Yeah.
be careful in there.
Yeah.
Bothers me. He did not tell her his name.
This is boring.
You didn't seem bored a minute ago. Screamed your head off, didn't you? You should have seen your face.
I told you. It was this big rat. Jumped right at me from under the seat. You would have screamed too if you saw it. Guts, fatso.
Hey, what do you have to say that for?
Anyway, why are you sitting here? I thought you said the cops were after you.
Nah, I don't think they follow me here. Besides, I blocked the door, so no one could get in. Not the cops, and not these other monsters.
You're weird.
Yeah, that's what everyone always says.
Well, I guess people call me weird too. And they yell at me. Especially when I do something bad. Did you do something bad? You know, so the cops are angry with you?
I don't know. Maybe?
So why don't you just say you're sorry? It always works for me.
They wouldn't listen. Nobody ever listens.
Wow, so Eddie's back. Remember her. Posters blacked out. That's great. I was here. Dude, so good. Over 20 movies to enjoy. Wow, so we're gonna see old Eddie again.
Did you hear that too?
Oh man. I know you're gonna hate me, but this is where we're gonna end it. Because if there is a whole bunch of meat on the bone, I don't want to get caught going too late and run out of gas. Man. Oh, thank you so much, friends. I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a lot of fun to play this game. And I hope that you'll keep coming back for these. Please do leave a comment. Follow the links in the description. Leave a thumbs up at the very least. If you watch all of my videos and aren't subscribed, please take a second to subscribe. It really does make a big difference for the channel. It really, really does. You can turn off notifications if you want, but please subscribe to the channel. Y'all are awesome. I am so appreciative of you. Those of you that have been here live, thanks for that. And if you're watching this and as they come out or years into the future, hope you're enjoying yourself. If you're binging, I will see you right here in the next one. If you're waiting for it to come out, we'll get it out as soon as we can. I appreciate you. You matter. And I will see you on the next one.